Auburn announces they're going to play Baylor in Atlanta next year, and boy, it does not go over well.
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off, and you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie 5.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie 5, and we are ready to get after it. Auburn versus Baylor in Atlanta to open the season next year. Auburn goes from 7 home games on next year's schedule to only 6. There's a huge NIL win aspect to this, but there's also a ton of backlash from fans, understandably so. We're going to learn how to see both sides of an argument today, hopefully. I feel like we've lost the ability to see the positive in both sides of an argument. And I've seen some just insane responses that we're going to talk about as well. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to Rhoback.com. Use coupon code BARN20 to take 20% off your order. Polos, hoodies, pullovers, Auburn licensed apparel. I got on one of my Auburn licensed apparel hoodies today with a throwback logo right on the chest. Their stuff looks good. It feels good. And you can save big using coupon code BARN20. Show them some love. It's Rhoback.com. Like I said, the opening game of the year, Auburn had a home and home, okay, with Baylor. We obviously went to Baylor earlier this year. They were going to return the favor. You got one scheduled with Miami, I think, down the road, and so on and so forth. You got to do those every so often. And under the new rules, you have to have a quality opponent. You have to have a quality opponent out of conference from a Power 5 conference, I believe, or Power 4, however many there are now. You got to have one of those every single year. Okay, so this was the Baylor. Baylor was this one for 2 years. They announced yesterday they're moving the Auburn home game to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And to understandable, intense backlash from mostly fans, I guess maybe all fans. And one thing before we jump into the details around this, we have got, and this may be a bigger sign of the times, okay? This may be a bigger sign of just today in general in all arguments or all like situations. We have an inability to see both sides of an argument and see value in both sides of an argument and to try to find any kind of common ground. It's wild. It's almost zero sum is not the right term. It's binary. If it's not one way, it's bad. Like it's only good and bad. I totally understand being upset about losing a home game. Trust me. It's a time, one of the few times you get to take your kids down, down the tailgate. You get to do this, the Auburn stuff, the nostalgia of coming back to campus. Like, I totally get that. Those are experiences. You only get a select few. You take one away. It stinks. Totally get that. Okay. I don't think anybody is saying that's not that big of a deal to lose that experience. But on the flip side, the details around this make it almost irresponsible for Auburn to overlook. Okay? And you have to be able to understand the landscape of college football today. You have to be able to understand it to really see why this makes so much sense for Auburn. Auburn, in my opinion, and I don't care if I get any flack for this, Auburn is rarely cutting edge on anything. We're always playing catch up. Had an experience over the summer, very similar, that I'm not going to go into. So I'm actually somewhat proud of Auburn for having this is one of the first of its kind. As a matter of fact, they pretty much helped write up the agreement, the NIL agreement with, I believe, Aflac is who they're sponsoring with. A lot of the players will get to pump up the game on their social media prior, get to shoot commercials and things like that to help justify the deal. And it said somewhere between $4 and $8 million of potential earnings could go almost exclusively all to the athletes. The reason this is so significant is because of the salary cap, okay? The salary cap is the salary cap, okay? You can't go above it. You can go below it if you want to, but you can't go above it unless you do outside party, third party NIL deals. And those are becoming harder and harder to get justified, like get passed and get justified. You have some teams that have bigger opportunities, bigger markets. Some teams like are just in a bigger advertising market. Therefore, there's more eyes on the players. There's more quote unquote impressions out there to justify the dollars. I'll just give you an example. Austin's a huge market. Okay. There's a lot of big businesses in Austin, in and around Texas, in and around Austin. I'm sure they pull from Dallas. I'm sure they pull from a lot of different places in Texas. That's just a big market. Miami, big market. Georgia, I'm sure, gets to pull a ton from Atlanta. Auburn doesn't necessarily have the huge market to be able to go have a ton of big business advertising deals that they can just pull from. So when you get a chance to have $5 million uncapped, somewhere between 4 and 8, they're saying 5 million is sort of the number they're kind of locking into. $5 million. When you can have $5 million that is uncapped, doesn't count against you. Now, let's say your salary cap is $15 million for your roster. Now you can spend upwards of 20. And that's not even counting any of your other outside NIL deals, third-party NIL deals that you have on top of that. That's just unfortunately the name of the game. This is Pandora's box that was opened. And you heard John Cohen say he did an exclusive interview with Justin Hokanson, and he's like, look, we don't necessarily want to do this, but until they actually agree to legislate this thing or they come up with some sort of parameters, you got to do stuff like this. This was just a crazy opportunity that was just sort of dropped in our lap. You got to take it. And all you have to do is play a game 80 miles from Auburn's campus in a really big stadium. You're going to get the much bigger allotment of tickets. Now it's only like 20 or 21,000 or so, but Baylor only gets 3,000. It's not a true split down the middle allotment neutral site game. So all we have to do is go to Atlanta, where you already have a huge number of Auburn fans. So if we go play in Atlanta on one of our home games, an out-of-conference games, it's not even one of the conference games, we're going to be able to make $5 million uncapped for the students. I think that's a no-brainer. And I'm sort of proud that Auburn did something a little bit cutting edge. There's a lot of people taking this thing super personal. And I think you just really have to understand both sides of the argument. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth in just a second. We'll be back right after this. So some of the things that I've seen that have just kind of blown me away. It's like you're taking this as a complete shot, taking it really, really personal. One thing that I've seen is that, hey, this is a slippery slope. This could mean we could have no home games. And here's the deal with that, okay? The reason these games are able to be played typically as the opener and they're very marketable, we've played in them before, is because there's no NFL that weekend. So you can go to some of these bigger stadiums. You can go to Jerry's World, like we played Oregon. You can go to Atlanta, like we've played there before. We've played Louisville there to kick off the season. We played Washington there to kick off the season. You can do these things, and logistically, it makes sense. Okay. There's no real competition in that stadium that particular week. There's no way you can pull off Saturdays and Sundays like every single week. Like Auburn's never going to go play every single weekend in Atlanta. That's silly to think about. That's silly to even postulate that could happen. Auburn's not going to go to Dallas and rotate back and forth. Auburn's not going to go to Tennessee in the Titan Stadium and play like a Southeastern tour, and neither is anybody else. This is a layup. This is the opening game of the year. This is just a layup game. And he talked about that you could see some of the home and homes if Auburn has that advantage of having Atlanta right there. If you play Miami, you go to Miami, and Miami's got to come back here. You may be able to take advantage of Atlanta again. It's just part of the game now. It doesn't have to be an insult to the fans. I've seen that a lot. We've stuck by Auburn through thick and thin over the last 4 years, and this is how you repay us. I've seen that a lot. It doesn't – the argument there is that you got to try to figure out a different way to get better because you owe us one, I guess, is what the argument is, which is silly. Okay, the product's been awful. And yes, the fans have been great. But they still have to find ways to win. They still got to, they don't just stop trying to find money because they've been bad. That was another one. We've spent all this money on NIL, and what has it gotten us? Okay, well, they can't, so they just stop spending NIL now because they're not getting their return on investment. Stop spending the money now. Again, like it's all binary. It's all, I don't like it, so it has to be wrong. There can be two truths here. This is an undeniable, you can't give up opportunity, and it's going to stink for the fans. Here's another one. Auburn makes 35. I saw this a lot. I don't know what the real number is, but for some reason this number is been thrown out there. Auburn makes $35 million on a home game, and they're giving that up for $5 million. That doesn't make any sense. Those aren't the same things, guys. $35 million in ticket revenue and concessions and whatever, wherever that number comes from, that doesn't go to the players. And you don't think that they've crunched those numbers? You don't think that they've looked at what they make from a home game perspective and what they could be getting from just NIL, the contract from Aflac to actually play in the game, the media rights and everything? It's going to be I assume it's going to be a primetime game. Like, you don't think that they've crunched the numbers there? The uncapped $5 million is a really, really big deal. It's a huge deal. It's really hard to go find $5 million that can be approved like that and not count against your salary cap. You know how many like $5,000 to $10,000 deals they have to go get approved to justify some of the numbers that these kids are commanding. And when I say commanding, it means like what they pull in the average market. It's a ton of work, man. This is a layup. If you want to run a very lean and efficient NIL, rev share, whatever you want to call it, total staff, this is huge for that. This means that this is a big chunk dropped in your lap that they can take the vast majority of and send directly to the players. And you know it's good to go. You know it's approved. Regardless of the results that you've seen on the field, NIL is a reality. Okay? You don't stop spending because you're playing bad. A lot of times you probably have to spend more until you get it figured out. And sure, you can spend a lot and it not work out with a particular player. That happens even in the NFL. We always have the bust conversation. Is so-and-so a bust? Why do you even have that conversation? Because you spent a ton of money on that person and you didn't get the value back out of it. That's reality in sports. You can't just stop spending or stop searching for deals like this because the results aren't on the field. As a matter of fact, you have to do the opposite. Now, to the business owners and again, fans, it stinks for me, okay? I love going to campus. I love taking I live here. It's easy for me to I don't have to spend hardly any money. I can almost walk to the stadium. I mean, I'm not because it's a really long walk, but I'm that close. But I also want Auburn to be really good and really competitive. And a lot of times not a lot of times, the better you can be, the better team that you can put on the field, the more attractive it is to come to Auburn, I guess. The more attractive it is to come to Auburn, the more some business owners that I've talked to, no joke. I've talked to 2 different business owners. Hey, if Auburn wins, we win. It's going to hurt a little bit, but if it helps Auburn win and they don't have to keep coming to me asking for, $5, $10, $20,000 here or there, if this is one big chunk and all I got to do is sacrifice one weekend and it makes us better, the better the team is, the more people that want to come to Auburn to just be in Auburn, it all works out in the end. Same thing on the other side. Again, 2 different business owners. Got to be able to see both sides. Okay. I hate it for the fans. I hate it for maybe there's some business owners that depend on that game. I find that hard to believe because there was a time in it's not a time. Every even year we play 8 home games. Okay. Every even year before this new deal, we played 8 home games. Well, in 2018, we played in Atlanta. So we only had 7 home games. I don't remember the backlash there. I just remember everybody being excited. Now, maybe there's a huge difference in going from 8 to 7 and 7 to 6, but that was the deal. Like for the longest time, you played 8 home games on even years, and then in 2018 we only played 7. So were they depending on those 8 games in 2018 and they only got 7? Did we have that same backlash? I don't remember that. Maybe it was. I just don't really remember it. It's a big NIL win, and I'm going to celebrate it as that. It's not a slippery slope to anything. If anything, all this does is possibly make it to where your opening game, your out-of-conference game could be a setup like this on maybe every other year or something like that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I crazy? Am I just missing the point? I don't think I am. I do see both sides. There is value to the argument that it sucks for the fans. It sucks for business owners. Totally get it. I'm not saying that those feelings are unwarranted, but also you got to be able to look at it from an Auburn perspective as well. And it's huge to be able to just be gifted essentially $5 million uncapped that you can use to buy, pay for more student athletes. And I think John Cohen mentioned this is not going to necessarily all go to football. It could go to all the sports, and they could look to do more opportunities like this for all the sports. Heck, basketball, you don't hardly play out of conference games at home. You play them everywhere else. And I guess the argument there is sometimes it's easier to go see the basketball team away from home than it is at home as of late. But they play they're playing in a Vegas tournament this year strictly for NIL. So smart. That's genius. Got to do more of that. Do everything, do all of that you can. Hit me up in the comments. I know this one's going to be controversial. I know this is a very controversial conversation, but hopefully you got a better understanding of both sides. Maybe mostly the NIL side. Sales tax revenue and ticket sales is not the same thing as $5 million NIL uncapped. It's not even remotely close. Okay. If you're talking about money going into the players' pockets, it's nowhere near the same thing. Guys, I appreciate it. Hit me up. Let's talk again soon. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.